Well, it is 7:46 and it's open officially. Hey, welcome everyone. Glad you all can be here this evening. As Toastmaster, or excuse me, as president, it is my opportunity to share, well, not only the mission statement, which I will get to, but I'm also going to share a couple of quotes before we start. And I like this one. I picked up two of them. A beautiful thing about learning is nobody can take it away from you. And that was from B.B. King. And this being President's Week, I'm going to give a quote from a president probably not much heard of before. And his name is Martin Van Buren. He was our 8th president. He simply stated, "It's easier to do the things right than explain why you didn't." I like that quote. Moving on to our mission statement. The mission statement of Golden Speakers is to create a supportive and positive learning environment in which each member has the opportunity to develop verbal communication and leadership skills, which foster self-confidence and personal growth. Jean, thank you for showing up. Welcome, everyone. I must, Dan, before I move on, just give it to our Toastmaster. The things we spoke about last week, should I speak about that at the beginning of our meeting or the end of our meeting? I can't hear you.
I would vote for the end.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Well, we're going to move this thing on to Vivek, who is our Toastmaster this evening. Vivek, have you been Toastmaster before? I don't recall.
No, I joined for many years as a guest in Nepal, but due to COVID and many restrictions, I couldn't join fully. I couldn't join every meetings, so I was not a member.
All right, great, Vivek. Well, I'm going to pass it off to you then. Take it away.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, my fellow Toastmasters and honored guests. As a Toastmaster of the day, it is my responsibility to introduce today's speaker. After the speech have concluded, I will ask for the timer's report, request ballots to be passed to the board counter, introduce the general evaluator, ask the counter for the report, ask the grammarian for the report, and call on the board counter for result. I will then return the control of the meeting to the president before we conclude the day. For now, I will introduce all the role players of the day. And the role players, the timer for today is Dan. So Dan, can you kindly state your responsibilities for the day?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guest. As timer, it's my role to keep track of all the speaking portions of the meeting that happened tonight. The speech is going to be an icebreaker speech, 4 to 6 minutes. At 4 minutes, I'm going to signal with a green card. At 5 minutes, a yellow card. At 6 minutes, a red card. Red means that there is 30 seconds to wrap up. There's that 30-second grace period. When we get to our impromptu speaking, our table topics, those are 1 to 2 minute speeches. The green card is shown at a minute, the yellow at 1.5 minutes, the red at 2 minutes, and again, there is a 30-second grace period. By the way, when we do table topics, the speakers have a 30-second period to organize their thoughts before they begin speaking. And finally, I'll be timing the evaluators. The speech evaluator will be given 2 to 3 minutes. That's a green card at 2, a yellow at 2.5, a red at 3. Again, 30-second grace period. Table topics evaluator will be the same or perhaps given a little more time, and we'll decide at that point. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Excuse me, Dan.
Yes.
Were you lighting up your screen to display the green, yellow, red, or would you have a card? Because it didn't display green, yellow, red if your screen was supposed to do it.
No, I was using cards.
Oh, excuse me. Okay. I just wanted
I actually only showed it when I was talking about the speech, and then I just referenced the colors after that. That was a little confusing.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Dan.
All right. Back to you, Vivek.
Okay, thank you for the wonderful and detailed explanation, Dan. And now moving on to next role player. Jean is our grammarian for the day. And Jean, would you kindly explain your role for the day?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, and greetings, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests. As a grammarian, I have 2 jobs for the evening. The first is to introduce the word of the evening. And the word that I've chosen, and it is in the chat, is an adjective. It's superfluous, and it means unnecessary, especially through being more than enough. An example would be the purchaser should avoid asking for superfluous information. Another sentence could be sending the information through a text and an email is probably superfluous. I will be keeping an eye on people using that. You're encouraged to use that throughout the meeting, and I will be giving a report on that at the end of the meeting. But I will also, as a grammarian, my second job is to make note of creative usages of language, excellent vocabulary, correct grammar, or conversely, areas needing improvement in terms of vocabulary or grammar, just something that we can all work on. And I'll be giving a report all together at the end of the meeting. And back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Jean. And yes, the word of the day is quite nice. And I hope we'll use it
Ooh.
more in the today's meeting.
Excuse me, I just noticed I left out a letter. So it's superflu. There should be a U after the L. So I'm going to put that in again and spell it superfluous. There we go. There.
Is it still enunciated the same?
Superfluous. Yeah, you have to have the U there to say the correct pronunciation.
Okay.
Now, I may have been putting way too much information here. It's probably superfluous. You all probably have it all by now. But there, it's better to make sure.
Thank you. Thank you, Jean. And okay, now moving on to next role player, the accounter for the day. I myself am taking the responsibility for accounter of the day, and I will explain my role as accounter. So as accounter for the day, my responsibility is to note the words and sounds that are used as a crutch or filler, pause fillers by anyone who speaks. During the meeting, I will listen for overused words, including and, well, but, so, and you know. I will also listen for filler words, including and or. I will note down when a speaker repeats a word or a phrase. At the end of the meeting, I will report the number of times each speaker used those expressions. Thank you. And now moving on to the next role player, Bob. He is our general evaluator for the day. And Bob, would you kindly explain your role?
Sorry, I'll mute there. My role for this evening, I will be the general evaluator which will mean that I will evaluate the evaluators. As we do on Toastmasters, we like to evaluate everything and everyone. That's back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Mr. President and the General Evaluator for the day. And our next role player is Karthik. He is the greeter and joke master for the day. Karthik, would you kindly explain your role?
I do not have a script for this, but at the end of the meeting, I'll probably telling a joke, which I think it's gonna be funny. Let's see.
Okay. Okay,
Thank
hope so.
you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now moving on to the next section. Now we have the prepared speech section where Sue shall be, she shall provide her speech that she has prepared. And now I would like to hand over to Alex, who is the evaluator for Sue, and she will read the objective of the speech.
Thank you so much, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmaster, and our honored guests. I will introduce the objectives of the speech that Sue will be giving tonight. Sue is giving her first speech, which is the icebreaker, and I believe it's part of the mastery of presentation. Is that correct? Mastering presentation. And the purpose of the project is for the member to introduce themselves to the club and learn the basic structures of the public speech. I will be evaluating on clarity, vocal variety, eye contact, gestures, but also I'm here to listen to the beautiful job that Sue will do and cheer her on. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Alex. Now, providing introduction for Sue. Sue Frey is an 8-year-old Air Force veteran and one of our newest golden speakers. Sue has lived in Southwest Iowa with her husband Sean, who is also present in this meeting, and her 3 daughters since returning to Iowa in 1999. She currently serves as the executive director at the Lord's Cupboard in Fairfield. Tonight, Sue will share her 8-year-old journey with us and tell us how she learned to aim high while serving in the United States Air Force. Let's get our hands together for Sue.
Off we go into the wild blue yonder, climbing high into the sky. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests. Thank you for joining me tonight as I deliver my first icebreaker speech. I would like to share with you my Air Force journey, how it began, and the many experiences that I've had. As a young high school graduate, I first attended college for 3 years, and 3 years later, I realized I was looking for a new path, a different adventure. I could use the college credits that I had earned, which would give me an automatic promotion in the enlisted forces. After many hours of contemplation, I made a decision. I turned to my best friend, my fiance, and I said, I want to explore new opportunities, some new options. I'm tired of working 2 jobs, going to college at night, and I want to do something meaningful. So how did this process begin? I met with a recruiter for the United States Air Force. I passed my physical, and before signing on the dotted line, I turned to Sean and I said, I think I'm going to do this. Are you in? Are you ready to take this leap of faith with me? Imagine his surprise. She's doing this. We weren't even married yet, and I was on a 6-month delayed enlistment program, which basically means I put in for a job that I wanted, which in the military is called a MOS, a military occupational specialty. I chose the career, which was a traffic management specialist. My job in the Air Force would be to route commercial and military flights for military members and their families as they deployed to different locations, and also en route to other places. During the 6-month wait time, it realistically turned into a 2-month period of time. I planned our wedding in 4 weeks, and we were married on December 21st, 1991. I then traveled to Des Moines on February 1st to await my flight to take me to basic training the next day. Basic training was in San Antonio, Texas, for then 6 weeks at a time. I then later attended tech school for an additional 5 months. And this was not a time that was ideal for newlyweds to be apart for 8 weeks. But during tech school, I was able to fill out a dream sheet, which was ironic in its name because you were able to choose 6 destinations worldwide where you would like to spend your next 4 years in the Air Force. A lot of times these were just dreams because they didn't often come true. Unfortunately, I listed my first choice as England, and I was granted that opportunity. And I served at a electronic security group base, which was in a small village called Shefford, just outside of London, England, 50 miles north, actually. And much to my surprise, as a new airman, I arrived at the Air Force Base. There was no flight line to speak of. Being that it was an electronic security group place, it was a very remote, private area, a very small base. But we were able to travel to many different areas of England, to Germany, to Paris, Ireland, and even Turkey. We were even able to take military hops anywhere around the country for free. We were included as part of the cargo on the aircraft. So it was quite fun to surprise everyone to take these little military hops. We were both very young, Sean and I. We didn't have any children, and we were always up for a new adventure. As our time in England came to a close 6 months earlier than we had anticipated, thanks to Mr. President Bill Clinton, he was closing a lot of bases worldwide, stateside, and overseas. And we were affected by that, and our time was cut short. We were then assigned to our last military destination, which was Oklahoma, for 4.5 years. And we had a wonderful opportunity to serve our country. I was with my new husband. We traveled extensively, even to a third world country twice, and met so many interesting people and had long-lasting friendships to this day that have lasted over 20 years. I wouldn't change the experience for anything. It was challenging, but I grew as a person. In my enlistment time from 1992 to 1999, I grew as a person. I became a mother, a college graduate, and I continue to serve my community even today by helping other veterans in our area. I challenge everyone to aim high. I challenge everyone to chase their dreams, and don't be afraid to explore new opportunities. Thank you. It's over.
Thank you for the wonderful speech.
Thank
Susan.
you.
Now, Alex, I believe you have 2 minutes to prepare your evaluation. And now, shall we go with? Now, I'd like to go to Dan whether Susan qualified for the speech or not. Whether she was within time.
Yes, she did qualify.
Thank you.
So, Dan, are you going to time for 2 minutes so that we can all send our evaluations to Sue over the chat?
Yes, will do.
Okay. Let us everyone send our evaluations to Susan regarding her speech. Alex, are you ready or do you need more time?
I'm ready. I could go now.
Okay. Whenever you are ready.
Thanks, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our honored guests. Sue, what a beautiful job. Congratulations on your first speech. It was a pleasure to evaluate you. So I will start with the way that you started your speech, which surprised us all with your beautiful voice, singing a song. So that's a great hook. It got us all engaged and ready to listen to what you were about to deliver. And I really enjoyed the structure of your speech. It was chronological. So you took us back in time and took us through all the decisions that you made when you decided to join the Air Force. So this format was very easy to follow. I believe that I could see here, everyone was engaged, everyone was listening. So that was a great way to organize the speech. You also maintained great eye contact with the camera, which made all the audience, everyone gets engaged also and pay attention to you. So great job on the eye contact. I also enjoyed your vocal variety. You made me feel that I could feel your emotions as you were going through all the different phases of your life and the many adventures that you had with your husband, Sean, and all the travelings that you did. So great job at also showing your emotions and creating this vocal variety. And also, I really enjoyed the way that you finished your speech with a few points that the audience can take to also go after their dreams and believe in what they have. I like how you finish, aim high and explore the opportunities. So great conclusion there. I really enjoyed the way that you structured your speech. It was easy to follow. You felt very comfortable. I could see that you were enjoying the words were coming out of your mouth, like, just a good flow. So great job on the preparation of your speech. My only suggestion here would be for you to maybe use a little more hand gestures or try to include the gestures maybe for your next speech. Of course, they come with time as we become more comfortable, but that would be really my only suggestion for improvement. Or maybe for the points that you added for your conclusion, if you wanted to include them a little bit before, also mention to the audience, you're going to be taking on 3 things that I used, just some ideas that you could tie together the beginning and the end of the speech. But other than that, great job, congratulations, and I can't wait to hear other speeches from you.
You're on mute, Sue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex, for the wonderful evaluation. Now we shall move on to next section of our Toastmasters meeting, and that is the interesting table topic session. Hey! Now the table topics master for today is Sean, and till now we are exactly on time. It is supposed to be 8:11 and we are at 8:11. So Sean, take the meeting. I hand over the meeting to you.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. I have 10 topics tonight based on our meeting theme, Success We Have Known. And so I hope I do a good job with the word of the day, and these questions aren't entirely superfluous. And everybody gets a crack at the first one. So since Dan has been very excellent with his technical skill, I'm going to ask Dan if he would like to go first.
You're voluntolding me. Bob, could you time me, please? He's always got his timing cards back on that shelf up there. So I know I can count on it. Okay, Sean, how about number 3?
Number 3. Excellent choice. What does success mean to you personally, and how have you incorporated that into your life and career?
Thank you, Mr. Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters, honored guest. What a success is a big question. I think the clearest way for me to explain it in my own terms is to say that I want to enjoy my life. I want to enjoy the people around me. I want to be comfortable. I'm not the most aggressive person in terms of wanting to accomplish this and that. It might give you a clue to know that I made my living before I retired as an accountant. Turned out to be a CFO and a controller, etc. But I think being an accountant is sort of a clue to my approach toward life. I wanted to always have something that could provide security for myself and my family. Accounting delivers that in any economic conditions you could name. But with that foundation, I really looked to measure success in terms of how my personal life was going. I didn't desire to be the CEO of the company. I didn't desire to be the number one accountant in the state, et cetera, et cetera. More basically, I desired to have a good life-work balance, enjoy every aspect of life, and then you would say to some extent leave the striving for positions or accolades a bit behind. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Who would like to go next? Babek, you're smiling there. I think Babek wants a turn.
No, I was thinking the questions might be particularly difficult, so people are not raising their hands. Okay, I'll go. So, shall I choose?
Yes.
Okay. Let's go with number 1. The first thought that came to your mind. I'll go with that.
Number 1. Babek, what's a success you've achieved that you're most proud of, and how did you get there?
Thank you, Son, for the wonderful question. Although I did take the time, it's a no-brainer for me. As soon as you read out the question, I had it in mind. So what was the thing for me? So my most successful achievement, it was the time I passed my Chartered Accountancy exam, CA exam. from the Indian board. For those of you who don't know, chartered accountancy is similar to CPA of USA, Certified Public Accountant, CPA of USA. So I passed the final exam in India, and that was not an easy task, because for the first two levels I was focused on my studies. I did pretty good. I studied many hours a day and I passed easily. Although the exam was hard, I did, since I had given so much effort, I could pass. But in the final paper or in the final exam, I was working at the time and I was a bit distracted from my studies. I was also investing and analyzing the capital markets, and that was distracting me so much because I loved capital markets. I loved the ups and downs in the market. So I couldn't study. What I even did was, even going inside the exam hall, I was even looking at mobile. I was even putting the orders for shares, buying and selling the shares. So I was in no way focused on studies. So like that, I lost around couple of years. I lost more than 2 years in studies. I failed attempt after attempt because I was not focused on studies. But then I realized this has to stop. I need to do something. I need to pass this exam because my parents have huge hopes on me and my friends have gone ahead. Some I have already passed. So what I did was I took a room nearby. I cut off all the social media. I cut off everything. I cut off the friends and I studied there for, you won't believe me, I studied there for 16 hours a day. What I only used to do was I used to only eat, sleep, and study. And after efforts, so much efforts for 6 months, I finally passed. So that was my greatest achievement. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivek. Well, since we've had 2 boys, I think we need at least 1 girl to go.
I can go, I can volunteer.
Okay. All right, Alex.
Is number 1 available?
Number 1 is not available.
What would number 2?
Number 2.
Okay.
Okay. Have you ever faced a setback or failure in your life? And how did you turn it into a success story?
Thanks, Mr. Table Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters, and our honored guests. I faced many setbacks in life, and I believe they are part of growing. But one that stands out to me, and it was an important thing that happened, was when, well, it was always my goal in life to finish my my college studies. I started my studies in Brazil, the country that I'm from, and I was studying international business. And my goal was to finish, graduate, and work in this area. However, 2 years into my program, when I started to look into internships, I realized that all the companies that were hiring in that area required English as a language, a spoken English. And I didn't know English at the time. It was difficult for me to face that reality, and I had to find different solutions. Thankfully, at that time, my mother was living in the United States. So I decided to put my university on hold, come to the United States to learn English, so I could finish my education. But life took a different route, and I ended up restarting my college here in the United States. Took me a little longer to do that, but I did it. I was able to finish my bachelor's degree here, and I also finished my master's degree. So that was a major setback in my life that took me to a completely different route, but it rerouted me to where I needed to be. So I'm thankful to that. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Alex. Okay, Jean.
I think we have a little gender situation going here.
Oh,
But yes, I will step forward for the fair sex. Yes.
okay. All right. So we have questions 4 through 10 left.
How about 5? Sean, you might
routine that you.
start again. I think you were a little frozen there for a second.
Okay. All right.
Either that or you were thinking really hard.
Yeah. By the way, Sue's computer died. I had to help her plug in, so she's rejoining.
Okay. I saw that.
Yep. Okay. So, what's one successful habit or routine that you've developed that has positively impacted your life or career?
Okay, Dan, I'm going to be heading down to my room. I'm going to be shutting my eyes. I'll see you in a little bit. That, ladies and gentlemen, fellow Toastmasters, honored guest, is me heading off to do my meditation, which I do morning and evening. It's the transcendental meditation technique. I was instructed in the summer between my sophomore and junior year of college, and we're not going to figure out how far back that was, but it was quite a while back, and I noticed immediate benefits, even though I thought I was way too cool to really have that much to improve on. But I did notice a lot of benefits, and it fit. It was easy, and I didn't have to believe anything. I just did this technique, and I felt better. And I did really well at school. I was in college. I started to notice higher performance. And then I've just done that for the rest of my life so far. And Dan does the same. So we're on the same page there. We just take our little breaks. So honestly, there are probably other things that I could point to that I've also done for my life, for smoothing things out or for just establishing rhythm. And it's important to me to have rhythm in my life. But picking the transcendental meditation technique, just to explain today here, is probably high, at the top of the list for something that I've incorporated in my life and that positively impacted both my life and my career. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, Jean. Okay, Bob, I think the boys are still up. or back up, I should say.
Okay.
We have question number 4 or 6 through 10.
Number 6.
Number 6. Have you ever taken a risk that led to a successful outcome? What was it And what did you learn from the experience?
Thank you for the questions, Mr. Table Topics Master. The day I quit my job, I had no job. My wife at the time was a little frustrated. However, I felt at the time I could do anything. I just got done watching the Indiana Jones movie where he steps off and there's nothing underneath his feet, and he puts his hand on his heart and takes a step. And wouldn't you know, there's a pathway all the way through. He was the bravest man in that movie. That movie inspired me. From there, I was good with my hands. I started tinkering this, doing building that. I started in a pickup truck, and I had a saw, hammer, and a tape measure. That's how I started in business. And I did a little drywall. I did a little of this, poured a little concrete. And then my truck got so full of tools that I had to buy a trailer. And then I started putting my tools in that trailer. And I needed a helping hand, so I hired this buddy of mine who worked for me for a couple of years. Through that experience, I kept building, and I bought equipment, and then I've had a lot of employees, and I've grown my business for the last 30 years just by taking that simple step and not looking back, not listening to naysayers, not listening to the fear inside of me, but doing what I needed to do because it was for what I needed to do. And that's what makes me successful.
Excellent. Thank you, Bob. Do we have time for one more?
I think we are ahead of time. It was supposed to be 8:39. We are already at 8:29. We are already at 8:40. So I think So what do you think, Dan? Shall we move ahead or?
I think it's time for the schedule. I could tell you which speakers qualified so we could vote.
Thank you, Son,
The-
for the wonderful session. Yes, Dan, please.
The qualifying speakers were Dan, Vivek, Alex, Jean, and Bob.
Okay. Everyone kindly send your votes to me in a private message, and kindly write the TT, table topics, as table topics. Write TT and the name of the speaker who you think presented the best amongst all. You can vote for yourself also. Thank you. Okay, so we'll move ahead, and in the meantime, you guys can vote. Okay, now Karthik. He is the one who is going to evaluate the table topics. So, Karthik, are you ready or do we need some time?
I think I can go ahead this time.
Oh, yes. I really like your attitude. Okay, Karthik, whenever you are ready, take it away.
How many minutes
see.
does he need? What's his
Oh,
time?
yeah.
Oh, Dan, kindly.
I mean, yeah, 5 speakers. Dan, what's the timing?
Do you want 3 to 4 minutes? I think that's what I would ask for.
Okay. I would ask for more.
Let's don't get greedy.
I'll go for 3 to 4 minutes.
Concise.
Nice. Sure. Thank you, Toastmaster Vivek and fellow Toastmasters and my dear guests. The first speaker, table topic speaker, Dan, So what I really liked about his speech was he addressed both the questions. So his question was a two-part question: what does success mean to you, and how did he incorporate that into his career? He really explained, how accounting was the one that means providing security to his family, and how he measured the success based on his personal life rather than being focused on accolades or being the number one accountant. He really focused on a balanced life, and he really addressed the question. On the one recommendation that I have for Dan is, instead of rushing at the end, I noticed that you used used certain terms repeatedly, like to explain your job role. Like I was a accountant, CF, and instead of going into details about that, you could focus more on the question. Second was Bibek, what success you achieved. So he explained. He was really enthusiastic. It was no-brainer question to him, where he mentioned the most successful achievement that he made was clearing the CA final exam. He explained his journey of the parts in the exam, like the first level, second level, and also explained how he studied 16 hours a day for 6 months, and his journey in achieving his goal of CA final exam. The suggestion that I have for Vivek is use hands as when needed. I noticed that he used only one hand, which I think is right hand, but used both hands as when needed. It need not be like a forceful one, but use as when needed, and make use of a 30-second to structure the speech. If you go back to this video, I think this is a recorded one. So if you go back to the video, you could see there are chances that you could think a little bit more and structure the speech rather than having pauses in the middle. Third is Alex. Her question was if she had a setback or failure in life, and how did she turn that into success story. I really liked her organized content of how she came to US to learn English and how she completed bachelor's and master's. The suggestion that I have for her is you could have explained a little bit more on what success meant. From being a non-native speaker, I know how learning English is a little bit difficult, but you could have explained a little bit more on how learning English helped you become successful in your career or arena of your life. Mm-hmm. And finally, there's Jean for the question on habit that positively impacted her life. The hook, the beginning was something that I was caught off guard. It was just a conversation to Dan. So that's the most important part that I liked about her speech. And she really explained about the transcendental meditation and how rhythm is important to her. And I do not have any suggestions for Jean. I wasn't able to note it though. There is a possibility, but yeah. Next is Bob. Risk taken for successful outcome, lessons learned from the experience. He really addressed both the questions. The day that he quit his job and how he grew his business for the last 30 years. And he said, the lesson that he learned was by doing what he needs to do, that made him successful. And he really incorporated a really good eye contact. The one suggestion that I have for Bob is, he can position his camera a little behind so that we could see the hand gesture that he's doing, because it was only, we could see only smaller one. And that's my evaluation. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Karthik. Yes, Jean.
I just want to mention, because not everybody knows, Karthik has been our table topics evaluator. And in the past, and probably in the future, we are very hesitant. We don't have anyone be an evaluator till they've actually done their evaluator project in level 1. However, those of us who have been in the club for a while felt that Karthik was showing so much promise with evaluating that we've just put him in. So he has jumped the queue and is now doing that. And I think it's obvious why we're doing that. So just kudos to Karthik. And okay, back to the program here. Yes. Mhm,
Yes,
mhm,
really great of Karthik.
mhm.
And now I'd like to ask the timer Dan whether Karthik qualified or not.
Both evaluators qualified. Karthik qualified and Alex qualified.
Yes, I should have asked for the both. Okay. Now moving on. Now our general evaluator, Bob.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm general evaluator.
I think it is in the minute regarding the
Could
general
we-
evaluator,
Could we
Bob.
vote?
Yeah.
Yes, we better.
Okay. The vote shall be to send to me or to Bob.
I've
To you.
Vivek,
to you. I
To-
Okay.
just put evaluators. Yeah, KT evaluator, EV, something like that.
Is it to you, Bob? Did I hear right?
No,
You sent it to Babak.
Vivek.
Okay.
All vote results go to our Toastmaster of the evening. And that is Vivek tonight.
Okay. So everyone send the votes to me and write evaluator in the beginning. Now we are in the last session of the meeting. We will present the reports and the awards and the joke for the meeting. So now I'd like to hand over to our general evaluator, Bob. Would request the role players to present their reports and provide his report for the meeting also. To you, Bob.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Great job. Doing a great job. As my role, I'm going to call for the reports. First of all, Dan, can you share with us the farmers report? See,
yes, thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. Our prepared speech by Sue, 5 minutes, 53 seconds. Table topics, mine was 217, Vivek 224, Alex 202, Jean 2 minutes even, Bob 1 minute 53. Our evaluators, Alex was 2 minutes 53, and Karthik was 4 minutes 21 seconds. That's my report.
Dan. Moving on to our grammarian this evening, Miss Jean Symington Craig. Jean, can you give the report, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. The usage of the word tonight, a little on the sparse side. Sean used it once very effectively. I used it once. Did anyone else use it? Okay,
I
this
could
is
have
a,
used it. I didn't use it.
yeah. So we can, this is a case where we want superfluous usages. We want them to be used over and over again. All right, so but at least you know the word and you can use it the next time you realize that something in your life is unnecessary and probably being repetitive. In terms of usage, Susan had hours of contemplation and traveled extensively. These are, I'm big on vocabulary personally and different ways to say the same thing. Dan had accounting, I didn't quite get it, but accounting delivers in any economic condition or situation. And he also had leave the striving and the accolades behind. That was a pithy sentence right there. Vivek had investing and analyzing the capital markets. His eyes were twinkling and his face was lit up when he said that. That was interesting. Alex had life took a different route, and she used route a couple of times, which was the repetition is good. It was not superfluous. It was a good move. Bob had not listening to the naysayers. You know what naysayers are? They're saying, no, can't do it, can't do it. And finally, Karthik had several times no brainer. And also the arena, if I heard that correctly, the arena of your life, which referring, I believe, to Alex, arena of your life. I like that. I didn't hear any incorrect usages, and that's my report.
Thank you, Jean, for that grammar report. Next, we'll move on to our odd counter. Rebecca, can you share that report?
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. So, the report for the day. Dan had 1 A and 1 repeat. That's it. Susan was the featured speaker for the day. She had 4 A, 8 and she really takes one long and between couple of sentences she takes and, so she had 3 of those. And Alex, today while evaluating she was using frequently. Usually she doesn't. So she had 7 A, 2 1 and 4 repeats. Son was flawless. I didn't notice any. Karthik had 25 A during evaluation and 1 2 2 like and 2 repeats. And one silver lining for Karthik is that in the previous meeting I noticed that Karthik also had a long and, like he used to repeat that and, he had a long stage of and, but he didn't do that today, so that is a good thing for Karthik. But for Karthik, where he used the A was whenever he was switching between 2 sentences, before starting the next sentence, he used to use A. So I suggest him to watch out for that. And thank you. And that's my report for the day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Now we're going to look to the funny man for the night. Mr. Karthik, lay it on us, buddy.
Let's see if that's funny. Okay. You heard the rumor going around the butter?
I'm sorry.
It's flowing.
You heard the rumor going around the butter?
It's flowing around. Floating.
Yeah. Never mind. I shouldn't spread it.
What was the punchline?
Never mind. I shouldn't spread it.
Oh, okay, good.
And then I saw a video in YouTube, so I'm just trying to transcribe that into a joke. So a wife, knocks the door on the fridge before opening the fridge door. Why do you think she does that? Wife knocks on the door of the fridge before opening the door. Why do you think she does that?
So I think someone might be inside.
No, because there's a salad dressing.
Oh, because of the salad dressing. Ah.
Yeah.
That's good.
And there is another one which I didn't understand the joke, but maybe you guys understand. That's funny. Where should you go in the room if you're feeling cold?
Can you kindly repeat?
Where should you go in the room if you're feeling cold?
Oh, I know that. You should go to it was corner or wherever you're supposed to be.
Yeah, you're right. You should go to the corner. They're usually 90 degrees.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
I think whenever I was the joke master also, I saw that joke when looking for jokes.
Uh-huh.
Okay, that's the joke.
Very good, Karthik. Good job.
Yes, and I would like to mention one thing. Jean was flawless. I didn't mention Jean, I think. I didn't notice any killer words from Jean.
So Sean and me,
Yes.
we're flawless. There we go. Hitting 5. Mhm.
Okay.
Very good. Well, now that I'm the general evaluator for this evening, I have 2 people to evaluate, Alex and Karthik. First of all, I'm going to start with Alex. Alex, I must say, you are really picked up your game. That card I sent you, I can tell you were following that card, and you just really shined on your skills and levels and given your evaluation. When she greeted Sue on her thing, of course, she greeted the audience like she normally does. She gave a good acknowledgement to Sue's speech. And a sign of a good evaluator is that she pointed out the body of Sue's speech. And that's very important because we all heard Sue's speech, but for an evaluator, you want to know what the opening hook is. You want to know what the body is. And then you want to compliment the speaker that she had good eye contact, gestures, vocal variety. And Alex pointed all of that out. I like the fact that she just lightly touched on content since we already heard the speech, but still she intermixed it within everything. She gave a good conclusion to Sue's speech. She also told Sue that she had good structure, which is a sign of another good listener. And she gave a suggestion to use hand gestures. The only suggestion I would have for you, Alex, is like I like giving hand gestures as well as you. Whatever the hand gesture that you suggested Sue would have given, you should have just pointed that out to her. And then we all would have known what that hand gesture would have been. But good job. Karthik, a male evaluator of seating, he greeted the audience. He jumped right in and he stated that Dan had 2 questions. And I realized that you got to talk fast when you got a lot of people to evaluate. So he just hit highlight. But I like what Karthik did is that he gave suggestion to Dan for good hand gestures. He jumped right to Babek and he pointed out Babek's enthusiasm. He also gave the body of his speech briefly. He gave suggestions and he gave an example. He moved right along to Alex. Again, he greeted her. He liked her contact. And again, not only did he touch on the English thing, since he has learned it as well as Alex, so they had a parallel line there where they can work, but he also wanted her to give good, maybe a suggestion on how that would have been for gestures. Jean, looks like he acknowledged that the hook that Jean put out there, and although he didn't give suggestions for Jean, he did a great job. Then he went on to me. The best suggestion that he gave to me is that I should use the camera more, and that was great. So good job, Karthik. That's my report.
Bob, just a correction on that. What I mentioned was when you do the hand gesture, it is really close, and I was can you see my camera? You're able to see only half of my hand, right? If you could position a little bit behind your camera, we could see both your hands, like completely what you're showing, because I can see your hands moving, but from what I can see,
You could see what I was doing, right? So my camera wasn't zeroed into what I was doing.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So stand back. Yeah. All right.
Yep.
All right. Now I'm going to pass this. Thanks, Karthik. Now I'm going to pass this back on to our Toastmaster of the evening. Babek, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator and the President for the meeting. Now moving on to another exciting part of the meeting, and that is the awards of the meeting. Yeah. Yeah. So first thing first. So the featured speaker. So Susan, she's the anonymous winner of the featured speaker today.
Yeah.
Yes, Susan. Great speech.
Thank you.
Now moving on to table topics. Guys, can you guess? I will not say the answer unless you guys guess. I need some guesses. Who might it be? The one who is grinning and laughing, Bob. Bob is the best.
Bob. Okay,
All right.
Bob.
Yay!
Oh.
Hey, all right.
I think Bob was so confident that he would win that he was grinning and laughing before I announced. Okay. Now moving on to evaluator. Any guess?
It would be.
Flip a coin. Flip a coin.
Both the evaluators are smiling. Okay, so the better evaluator for today is Karthik.
Ooh, yay.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And you did a really great job, both of you. Okay. Now with the meeting awards, I would like to hand over the meeting to the president, Bob. And Bob, kindly provide your closing remarks. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, Beck. Did a great job. Everyone did a wonderful job. We have a few minutes before we close the meeting this evening. And Sue, I want to thank you for doing your icebreaker. Everything was great.
Thank you.
I, as a role as president, how can I put this best? We thank you for all being here. We know lives are busy. We know everybody has things on their plate and things happen. I want to point out that Dan works hard for our Toastmasters. And, well, we all work hard, don't get me wrong. But Dan has to prepare things for the schedule for the weeks to come. And in doing so, when he makes that schedule, we have an opportunity on Easy Speak that if you were unable to make it on that Tuesday, if you could step up and mark the X on there stating that you will not be there on the meeting on Tuesday. Because we all have roles to fill, and we realize that it can be challenging at times. However, it would be helpful to all of us if you're committed to come, that you continue to come. But if you can't, let Dan know ahead of time, Sunday morning, if you cannot make it.
Mhm. Mhm.
All right? Yes.
Mhm.
Yes, Jean.
And just to piggyback on what Bob has very well expressed here, since I've been the vice president of education before and Dan is now, so we were into the details of it. What we realize is that the best thing to do is if you know you're not going to be able to attend and you can't change your schedule or it's just unavoidable that you're going to have to miss, is as Bob said, is you go into Easy Speak and you mark yourself out for the meeting. And this should be done prior to Sunday at noon. Now, the reason that is important is sometimes Dan needs to do it Sunday afternoon, but he works on the agenda so that either Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening, and then that's when the emails go out where you accept your assignment. And even though, and this is, I hadn't connected this until we were talking about it, but even though that email says you accept or you decline, we don't want you to decline at that point, because by then it's too late, because Dan's already figured out, who's on first, what's on second for the meeting, and then he's got to rethink it. So now obviously if something has come up and you got hit by a bus and you're in the hospital, and you couldn't have anticipated that, well then then you can decline. You could also send Dan a little note just saying, hey, I got hit by a bus. I'm, of course, there's no buses in Fairfield, so that to me is a little joke. But obviously, you couldn't have anticipated that. So then that would be something to do. But if you know something is coming ahead of time, and if you can get yourself marked out, not attending then before Sunday at noon, just for a deadline, that would be very useful for Dan. And then in terms of responding to your email assignment, so let's say you are accepting, we'd like you to have that accepted by, what do we said, Dan, maybe Tuesday by noon? So
No, I'd prefer that it be Monday because, I'm going to send out the agenda
That's what I
Monday
meant.
evening.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I meant, yes, Monday by noon or 3:00, because then Dan, Monday night, sends you that email that says, hey, look, everybody's here and here's the thing. That's right. So erase that Tuesday bit. It's Monday. And then the email that goes out Monday night is all solid. So that's what we figured out. You don't have the option to decline when that email comes to you unless you've been hit by a bus or, you've been abducted by aliens, but you still have Wi-Fi, so you can reply, something like that. Okay,
I'm
I rest my case.
looking now for some really interesting replies. The dog ate my computer.
Yeah. Yeah.
One more thing I'll mention for those of you that are keeping a calendar, generally I've got a lot of meetings set up into the future. So it's possible to mark yourself out, 2 weeks from now, if you know you'll be gone. So you might keep that in mind too. But back to Bob. Thank you, Bob.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, everyone.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the hammer.
On Hammer, do you, yes, Dan?
I'm sorry to interrupt. Could we ask Christine to tell us one thing she liked about the meeting?
Yeah.
We enjoyed having her as a guest.
Had to unmute myself first. I thought the meeting was very professional, and I didn't think it would be at this level of professionalism. And everybody gave wonderful critiques, and it seems like you all have been members of the Toastmasters for like 10 years to be able to do what you're doing. And yes, I enjoyed listening in. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I wanted to join, what would be my next step?
I would speak to Dan. He's the VP. Yeah, he would.
Alex.
Actually, Alex.
Sorry,
Alex.
overstepped my bounds there,
You
Alex. Yeah.
certainly can talk to Dan, but Alex is our, vice president of membership. And so Alex,
Yes, Christine, you can send me your email. If you can put your email on the chat.
Right now?
And yes, and then I will send you an email with all the information that you need.
Okay.
we'd love to have you, by the way.
Yes.
Mhm.
Well, as my thing, I always end the meeting with the hammer and a board. A great story if this was the hammer I started business with, you can, yeah. Although it's not, but anyways, it's closed.
So that's the gavel, Bob style.
Yeah.